This is a video on calculating the velocity, wavelength, and frequency of a wave. So the relationship between the velocity of a wave, frequency, and wavelength is given by this simple formula, V equals F lambda. V, that's the wave speed, wave velocity in this case. Okay, typically measured in meters per second. F, that's the frequency of the wave, measured in hertz. Lambda, that's the Greek letter, and that's the wavelength, measured in meters. So let's do an example of how this formula works. So e.g., example 1. Let's suppose we need to find the wavelength of a wave traveling at 20 meters per second with frequency 5 hertz. So the first step in solving any problem really is to write down what you know. So we know what the velocity is in this case, it's just 20 meters per second. We know what F is, that's 5 hertz, and we need to work out lambda. How do we do that? So that's our first step. Second step, we write down the formula, the relevant formula. That's V equals F lambda. And we rearrange this formula to find lambda. So lambda is just V divided by F. What's V in this case? Well, it's just 20 meters per second. Remember to always write down the units as well, just to keep track of things. The frequency F, that's 5 hertz. 20 divided by 5, that's 4. So the wavelength is 4 meters. That's example 1. Let's do another example. Example 2. So suppose we need to find the speed, the velocity of a wave, if the wave has a wavelength of 450 nanometers and frequency 45 hertz. So the first step is to write down what we know. So we know what the wavelength is, lambda, that's 450 nanometers. Now we have to be careful here. A nanometer is a billionth of a meter. It's 10 to the minus 9 meters. Okay, so we need to make sure we work with consistent units here, meters. We know what the frequency is, that's 45 hertz, and we need to calculate V. Step 1. Step 2, write down the formula, V equals F lambda. It's always good to do things step by step, not to rush things. No matter how clever you may think you are, it's always good to just start from the bottom up. It's a good way to keep track of things and to not get lost, especially under exam conditions. So V equals F lambda. F is just 45 hertz. Lambda, that's 450 times 10 to the minus 9 meters. And you multiply the two, that'll give you a very small number, 0.00002025 meters per second. And that's how you work out V. We'll do one more example. EG, use a different color. Let's go EG3. Suppose we need to find the frequency of a wave. It's got a wavelength of 2.5 meters and speed 50 meters per second. Step 1, we know what wavelength is. It's 2.5 meters. We know what the speed is, in this case V, 50 meters per second. And we need to work out F. Step 2, V equals F lambda. We need to find F, so let's rearrange this. F equals V over lambda. V is 50 meters per second. Lambda is 2.5 meters. And if you do this, you will get 20 hertz. That's your frequency.